I guess we touched on this a little bit earlier about ladies wear, but I know we had some questions about belts specifically, wearing belts with a midi, maxi, mini kilt. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, because I know that there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, before somebody derailed my list of questions an hour ago, we had a couple of people asking about belts. And Andrew Cooper had asked us, do you, Emma, like to wear sporrans? And then we had other people asking about belts. So I think leather accessories are definitely a concern. And what do you think? Yeah. Should you wear a kilt belt with a kilt as a woman?
Yeah. So I wear a belt quite frequently with my kilts. The ladies' kilt models actually don't have belt loops on them, which some people find a concern. They like the belt loops. I actually find it a feature to the kilts. I like not having the kilt belts, belt loops, because the belts that I wear are a variety of different widths. I have some that are 2.5, maybe 3 inches thick, some real chunky ones. And I have some super thin ones that are maybe a 1/2 inch or less. So I like to have a diversity of the widths of belts. So the belt loops, I think, not being there. The belt is purely going to be decorative. The kilt should stay up on its own comfortably. It's just adding some differentiation from that big wall of tartan that you have.
Place to hang your chatelaine.
Yes, yeah. If you're
Jillian,
yep, she's got her chatelaine that she puts. She wears that on a sporran strap, actually. But we also sometimes ladies will come to the store and ask if they should be wearing a men's belt, the thick men's kilt belts that we have. And I tend to steer ladies away from those because they are very, very thick. And it's a stiffer leather, and especially when you're wearing your kilt at your high waist, you have that thick leather that is not conforming to your body, so you're kind of losing your waist sometimes. It's creating a gapping effect around the top, and then to wear a kilt belt, you also need a big honkin', very cool but very large belt buckle, which can be very dominant on someone with a smaller frame. So they do look awesome, but they don't necessarily lend, I would say, to the female form as much. I would also say, imagining it, I've tried it on before. When we got those walnut belts in, I was like, oh, I want one of these so bad. They're so good. And I tried it on, and putting on the belt buckle and wearing my kilts at my high waist, that's the point where I bend. So bending over, I had the front rear. Go big or go home with the front rear belt buckle. So I got all those pointy things just in my skin. It poked me all over because that's where I bend. Ladies will wear their kilts a little bit higher than men sometimes, wherever their natural waist is, if they're doing high waist or low waist. So not where they're widest necessarily. So you run into that. I think you'd run into that a little bit more for something like that.
Technically, men are supposed to wear their kilts at the true waist also. And I do know people who run into the same consternation with a buckle, like ow. Okay. And I've even had customers where they're smaller, and I've suggested a smaller size buckle as much as they want the Fenrir or something like that. I'll say, you know what, you should probably go with this design. It's smaller, and on your frame, it's going to look more proportionate. However, the curves of the female form and the thick leather of the belt, yeah, that's a really important point. I think it does not tend to work. So. Yeah.
And a kilt belt being as thick and as stiff as it is, we'll sort of think of it more as like a cylinder. So it'll fit around a gent's frame. And guys typically are a little bit more cylindrical shaped, where women have more curves. So if you think of a curve like this, and then you're putting a cylinder around the curve, there's going to be a gap at the top, and it's going to be hitting at the bottom.
Stand proud, as they say.
Stand proud, yeah. Indeed.
So, and we do make the point for guys that a proper kilt that's fitted right should stay on you without a belt. So yeah, it's always kind of a visual accessory or a differentiation. Like, I think that's a good point. It adds a point of differentiation between the bottom half and top half of your outfit. So if you're wearing a belt, what do you do then? Do you just any old fashioned belt, or is there something you look for in a belt that works better with a kilt? Or
Yeah. So when I'm buying kilts specifically, sometimes I'll go on Etsy and that kind of thing and look for a really unique looking belt. I have a cool asymmetric one that's rather thick. So if I'm looking for something that's going to be more of a statement and larger, I'm looking for something that's a little bit more artisan. Otherwise, I'll get my thin belts and my jeans belts. I'll just find them at thrift stores, anything along those lines. And I definitely match my leathers together. I know we already talked about that, but that is a big thing that I think about. I have black shoes, so I'm going to get some black belts, and then most of my shoes are brown. I'm a brown leathers person, so I'll match that way. But yeah, there's a lot of leeway there, I would say. I know that I wouldn't say there's as many hard rules as there are for men when they're picking out a belt. I think you can get away with a little bit more, try some things out. You probably have some belts already in your wardrobe if you just got a kilt. Try those, see what you like. If you like the thicker ones on you, like the thinner ones, figure out what works best.
would you say that the top hem of a woman's kilt or kilted skirt is thicker than skirts they already own? Is that something they should be prepared for, or is it about the same?
I would say it is pleated, so there is a little bit of thickness on there. What I run into sometimes also is that the strap is kind of right at the waist there. So a lot of times I'll be putting my belt over top of that strap, which adds a little bit of bulk. So if you have one that's maybe really close to not fitting you, trying it on with a kilt might be a little bit disappointing. But you just have to keep it in mind when you're shopping for belts and pick something that might be a little bit bigger. I also think that if you're wearing belts, if you wear your jeans maybe a little bit lower and you wear your kilt at your high waist, for a lot of ladies, especially if you have more of an hourglass figure, those are some pretty different measurements. I think mine are like 4 or 5 inches different, my low waist to my high waist. So a belt that fits me at my low waist is way too big at my high waist, and vice versa. So keeping that in mind too when you're thinking you might need to get some belts specifically for your high-waisted kilts to set aside for those.
Cool. Okay.
Hello, lovely ladies. If you like wearing a belt with your kilt, let me know in the comments below. I definitely do. When you're picking out a belt, just remember, keep in mind your own sense of style and get fun with it. Have a great time.